Australia is a continent unlike any other, characterized by its wildlife and unparalleled landscape, both of which have been traumatized by invasive species brought by the English when they colonized Australia in 1788, the majority of which were brought over for sport to be hunted, such as the red fox. Introduced in 1871, it has done very well thanks to the rabbit density, it has a population of 7.2 million. Their close relative, the Australian wild dog, or dingo, is also invasive and wreaks havoc on the ecosystem, wiping out marsupials and rodent population along the Golden Coast. The only omnivore of the bunch is the feral hog, an escapee of domesticated farms. These highly adaptable creatures eat anything they can get a hold of along the northeast coast with a well-established population of 23 million. Europeans didn't stop there. Bringing horses from England was a long voyage. Thus the Brumby was created. Deemed the world's hardiest feral horse, the Australian government ceased efforts to capture them in 2016. Anyone who conquers a continent for their own good is obviously a cat person, allowing for the introduction of these feral kitties, who also thrive thanks to the always growing rabbit population. After the English conquered the Middle East, they utilized the camels as the hauling backbone of their empire. Then came the railroad and their subsequent release, creating a population of 1.2 million. All of these invasive species are damaging, but cumulatively, they still don't equal the environmental and economic damage caused by European rabbit, introduced in 1788 for food, quickly dominated the environment due to the fact that a single female can produce 30 young per year. Native omnivores and plants didn't stand a chance. This in turn fueled the expansion of invasive predators such on a massive scale. While fox and wild dogs population density corresponds directly with the distribution of European ravage, which is a double negative for native prey. Having spread across the continent by 1859 with a population of 10 billion, there was no end in sight. With such a warm climate year-round, breeding was permitted, and low-lying vegetation was a rabbit's paradise. With an annual population of 200 billion, depending on the season, they have reached plague level, choking out all competition and forcing every other animal in their trophic level to extinction or endangered, while costing farmers $113 million in damages annually. Droughts have been the only effective way to eradicate the vermin, but once the rain returns, so do the rabbits. Poisons and viruses have been introduced to little success, apart from the small population removals. The most unnoticed effect these critters have caused in the environment has been to native flora, forcing many old-growth forests and grasslands to extinction due to rabbits eating all the seeds and saplings. On Phillips Island in New South Wales, the infestation became so bad that it was condemned because they had undermined the soil so badly, in turn forcing many native seabirds to find new islands to inhabit. This map shows the distribution of the rabbits. In a 30-year period, they expanded across 75% of the continent, causing irreversible damage to Australia's vulnerable small marsupial population. The wallaby is a small marsupial that feeds on the same things as the rabbits and inhabits the same areas. By not being able to reproduce as fast, their population is struggling. The wombat has fared somewhat better than its two-legged cousin due to them inhabiting swamps, but nowhere has been off-limits to the rabbit in its crusades, mostly due to the removal of food. Although the yellow-footed wallaby lives in rock outcrops, it has different diet. The rise in predators and loss of vegetation to hide in has decimated their numbers as well. This sapling is an example of a rabbit predation that wiped out an entire species. Having to support 200 billion unwelcome customers has robbed the outback of young growth, changing the landscape and nutrient levels. In an attempt to control this, the Aussie government enacted strict laws against possession and sale of rabbits, hoping to lessen the effects of areas not at epidemic levels of infestation. This led to the creation of rabbit-proof fence, the longest in the world. Construction began in 1901 and was completed in 1907, the goal being to allow for population control in port areas along the west coast. At the turn of the century, beef was the largest export, so the grazing lands west were essential to the survival of the colonists. So like any money-motivated white guy, they built the world's longest fence, which would have a second dingo-proof layer added 20 years later. The decision was later realized to be a terrible idea, which had massive consequences for natural species as well. At 1,170 kilometers long, it completely hinders migration of emus and kangaroos, while also doing little to stop the rabbits. At a population growth of 200 billion and growing at 7% a year, these numbers of damages per bunnies are massive. This is crippling for a country so reliant on produce and livestock exports that's already facing a water crisis which isn't being aided by the extra mouths. The competition between cattle and rabbits for grazing lands has extended some deserts into the northwest up to 1,000 hectares, yet again forcing many native species to the brink of extinction. 59 species have already gone extinct.